Imagine standing in front of a mirror on your wedding day, draped in something so extraordinary that its price tag could purchase a private island, fund a Hollywood blockbuster, or even launch a small business empire. Most brides dream of a beautiful gown, something elegant, something memorable, something they'll look back on in photographs decades later with a warm smile. But there exists, in the rarefied world of luxury bridal fashion, a creation so far beyond ordinary imagination that it doesn't just represent a wedding dress. It represents the absolute outer edge of what human craftsmanship, precious materials, and visionary design can produce together. We live in a world where celebrity weddings routinely make headlines, where royal brides set trends that echo through generations, and where fashion houses pour months of labor into single couture creations. And yet, despite all of that, despite the glittering parade of million-dollar gowns that have graced cathedral aisles and palace courtyards across the decades, one dress sits alone at the very top. Untouched, unchallenged, unrepeated, one gown holds the title of the most expensive wedding dress ever created, and today we are going to explore exactly why that title has never been taken away. This is not simply a story about money. Anyone can spend money. True luxury, the kind that stops time, that makes an entire room fall silent, that gets written about and talked about and studied long after the occasion has passed, that requires something money alone cannot manufacture. It requires vision. It requires mastery. It requires the kind of collaboration between extraordinary minds that only happens once in a great while. And that is precisely what produced this legendary gown. So settle in, because by the time we finish walking through the story behind this remarkable creation, you will understand not just what makes it the most expensive wedding dress ever made, but why nothing since has come close to replacing it. To truly appreciate what sits at the top of the bridal fashion pyramid, we first need to understand the world it was born into. Luxury bridal couture is one of the most competitive and demanding corners of the entire fashion industry. Unlike ready-to-wear collections that follow seasonal trends, a wedding gown, particularly one created for or displayed at the highest level, must be timeless. It must carry emotional weight alongside aesthetic beauty. It must feel both personal and universal, both intimate and grand. The fashion houses that operate in this space are legendary. Names like Alexander McQueen, Dior, Givenchy, Balenciaga, and Valentino have all contributed breathtaking creations to bridal history. Royal families have commissioned gowns that became national symbols. Celebrity brides have worn dresses that inspired millions of ordinary brides to dream bigger on their own wedding days. Each decade produces its iconic moments, a silhouette that defines an era, a detail that gets copied endlessly in bridal boutiques around the world. And then there is the jewelry world, the world of fine diamonds, precious gems, and master jewelers who spend entire careers perfecting the art of making precious stones sing. Jewelers like Harry Winston, Graff, and Cartier have long held their own claim to wedding day glory through tiaras, necklaces, and rings that have adorned royalty and Hollywood royalty alike. Their work transforms the human body into something that catches light and holds it, turning an ordinary moment into something that feels almost supernatural. For most of fashion history, these two worlds, haute couture and high jewelry, have operated in beautiful but largely separate orbits. Couture designers collaborate occasionally with jewelers, and jewelers sometimes take inspiration from fashion. But a true, full, deliberate merger of both worlds into a single garment? That is something rare. That is something that requires a very particular kind of ambition and a very particular kind of partnership. Which brings us to the dress. The most expensive wedding dress ever created carries a price tag of $12 million. Not $1 million, not $5 million, $12 million. A number so staggering that it demands to be written out and contemplated rather than simply glanced at. This gown was the result of a collaboration between two extraordinary creative forces, renowned Beverly Hills bridal designer Renee Strauss and celebrated Hollywood jeweler Martin Katz. Together, they created something that the bridal world had never seen and has not seen since. Renee Strauss was not simply a dress designer who happened to be successful. She was, at the time of this collaboration, one of the most respected names in American bridal couture, operating out of Beverly Hills and building a reputation over decades for gowns that combined classic elegance with modern sensibility. Her salon attracted brides who wanted more than a dress. They wanted an experience, a story, a creation that felt worthy of the most important day of their lives. Strauss had an instinct for understanding what a bride truly wanted, even when the bride herself could not fully articulate it, as she translated that instinct into designs of extraordinary refinement. Martin Katz, on the other hand, was the jeweler to Hollywood's most luminous stars. His client list read like a who's who of the entertainment industry's elite. Names like Angelina Jolie and Hilary Swank trusted him to adorn them for their most photographed moments, including the Academy Awards. Katz had a gift not just for selecting stones of exceptional quality, but for understanding how jewelry interacts with the human form, how light catches a diamond at a particular angle, how a single strategically placed gem can draw the eye and elevate an entire look from beautiful to transcendent. When these two minds joined forces, the question was not simply how expensive can we make this? The question was deeper and more interesting. What would it look like if the boundary between a wedding gown and a piece of fine jewelry simply ceased to exist? What would a dress look like if it were designed with the same philosophy, the same materials, and the same exacting standards as a $12 million necklace or tiara? The answer was the diamond wedding gown. The diamond wedding gown was adorned with hundreds of carefully hand-selected diamonds, each one chosen not merely for its individual brilliance, but for how it would contribute to the overall effect of the garment as a living, moving, light-refracting work of art. This is a crucial distinction and one that separates this gown from lesser attempts at diamond-encrusted fashion. Many designers have attached gems to fabric. What Strauss and Katz did was fundamentally different. They approached the placement of every single diamond as a jeweler approaches the setting of stones in a masterpiece necklace, with geometric precision, with an understanding of optics, and with a relentless focus on how the whole would exceed the sum of its parts. When a woman wearing this gown moved, when she turned or walked or simply shifted her weight from one foot to the other, the diamonds did not simply sparkle. They created a cascading, symphonic effect of light, each stone catching and releasing brightness in a sequence that seemed almost choreographed. Observers who saw the gown displayed described the experience as watching something alive, something that responded to its environment with a kind of intelligent luminosity. The bride wearing this dress would not merely shine. She would radiate. The silhouette of the gown itself was deliberately kept sleek and classic. This was a profoundly wise design decision, and it speaks to the sophistication of both creators. It would have been easy, even tempting, to pile extravagance upon extravagance, to create a gown with an enormous architectural skirt, a lengthy train, layers of embroidery competing with the diamonds for attention. That approach would have produced something visually overwhelming and ultimately exhausting. Instead, Strauss chose clean, timeless lines that served as the perfect canvas for Katz's diamonds to perform without competition. The dress itself stepped back, gracefully, to let the light do the talking. This restraint, this willingness to allow elegance to triumph over mere excess, is one of the most important reasons why this gown remains in a category entirely its own. There is no shortage of expensive dresses in the world. There is no shortage of gowns covered in jewels or adorned with precious materials. But a dress that costs $12 million and still manages to feel refined rather than garish? That is extraordinarily difficult to achieve, and it is one of the clearest markers of true mastery at work. The diamond wedding gown was not created for a single bride's walk down a single aisle. It was designed and showcased as a statement, a declaration of what bridal fashion and fine jewelry could become when liberated from practical constraints and allowed to reach their absolute outer limit. The gown was displayed at exclusive bridal expos and high-fashion events around the world, becoming a centerpiece of conversation wherever it appeared. People gathered not just to admire it, but to genuinely grapple with what it represented. the fusion of two art forms into something that transcended both. This promotional purpose actually adds a layer of significance to the gown rather than diminishing it. Because a dress created for a single occasion, worn once, photographed, and then stored away, serves one moment. A dress created as a manifesto, as a demonstration of what is possible at the highest level of craft and ambition, serves an entire industry. It pushes every designer who sees it to think more boldly. It challenges every jeweler who studies it to consider new possibilities. It expands the imagination of every bride who hears about it, even if her own wedding gown will cost a fraction of $12 million. In this sense, the diamond wedding gown was an act of cultural generosity as much as an act of commerce. Strauss and Katz were not simply trying to sell a dress. They were trying to advance a conversation about what luxury means, about what craftsmanship can achieve, and about the relationship between the objects we surround our most important human moments with and the emotional weight those moments carry. Since the diamond wedding gown first captured the world's attention, a parade of extraordinary bridal creations has followed. Royal weddings have produced gowns of immense symbolic and monetary value. Celebrity brides have commissioned pieces from the greatest fashion houses on earth. Designers